This is craziest HOA moments. She threatened a hearing over slush. I am calling the board, and you will be on the agenda. That is what Melissa Carter screamed at me while I stood in my own driveway holding a snow shovel 3 days after the worst blizzard Grapevine, Texas had seen in a decade. She was pointing at a 2-foot-high pile of snow I had pushed to the side of my driveway, near the little wooden community sign that marked the entrance to my street. According to her, that pile violated Canyon Ridge HOA Incorporated policy, and she was billing me for emergency cleanup. I am a civil engineer. I hate sloppy paperwork. I also just moved into this place 2 months ago, and I cannot afford to lose it or get dragged into court over some made-up snow violation. The stakes were real. My mortgage was tight, my credit was maxed from the move, and I had no margin for legal fees or surprise fines. Melissa Carter was the Design Review Board vice chair, and she had a reputation. I learned that within a week of closing. She blocked approvals out of spite, showed up unannounced to nitpick landscaping, and kept a portable thermal printer in her car so she could print violation slips on the spot. I had seen her do it twice already to my neighbor across the street. She stepped closer, and I could see frost on her breath. The portable thermal printer was clipped to her belt like a badge. She pulled it free and punched a button. The little machine whirred and spat out a slip of paper. She handed it to me. I do not care what the weather did, I care what the rule says. That was her line. She said it twice in the first 60 seconds. The slip had my address, the date, and a reference number. No details. Just a line that said non-compliance with snow emergency protocol and a bill for $250 due in 7 days. I asked what protocol. She told me I was piling snow in a common area and creating a drainage hazard. I pointed out that the snow was on my property, pushed from my driveway. She said the sign marked the HOA right-of-way, and anything within 3 feet of the sign was association property. I did not argue. I took the slip, thanked her, and went inside. I pulled up the plat map I got at closing. The sign was 6 feet inside my property line. The HOA had no right-of-way there. I took a screenshot of the plat, printed it, and put it in a folder. Then I started a timeline document on my laptop with timestamps, weather data, and her exact words. I had a feeling I was going to need it. That same afternoon, Melissa came back. This time she had a guy with her. He was wearing a Canyon Ridge HOA Incorporated jacket and holding a camera. She knocked on my door, and when I opened it, she told me they were conducting a reinspection. I asked if I could see authorization. She said she did not need authorization, and if I refused entry, I would be in violation of the inspection clause. I asked her to show me the clause. She held up a laminated sheet with tiny print and told me to read it myself. I took a photo of the sheet with my phone, thanked her again, and closed the door. I called my friend Aaron that night. He is a local paralegal, and he has helped me organize evidence packets before when I had to fight a contractor lien. I told him what happened. He laughed and said Melissa Carter was infamous. She had been named in 3 complaints to the management company in the last year. None of them went anywhere because the board backed her. He told me to document everything, keep copies of all notices, and start a paper trail with the management company. The next morning I got another knock. It was Melissa again, and this time she had a clipboard. She told me I had 24 hours to remove the snow pile or she would have it removed at my expense, plus a penalty. I asked her who was going to remove it. She said the HOA had a contractor on standby. I asked for the contractor's name and contact. She refused. I asked if the removal would be during business hours so I could be present. She told me we can tow first and explain later. That is how enforcement works. That line stuck with me. I wrote it down as soon as she left. I also noticed she had printed another slip while standing on my porch. She clipped it to my mailbox. This one said failure to remediate within compliance window and listed a $400 fine. The timeline on the slip made no sense. The first notice said 7 days. This one said 24 hours. I took photos of both slips, checked the timestamps on my phone, and added them to the folder. I called the Canyon Ridge HOA management company. The office was in Southlake, about 15 minutes away. The woman who answered told me the office was closing early that day because of weather, and I had one shot to deliver documents if I wanted them reviewed before the weekend. I asked if I could submit a formal dispute. She said yes, but it had to be in writing with supporting materials, and it had to be on file by 4 p.m. It was 2:30. I printed everything: the plat map, the timeline, photos of both slips, photos of the snow pile and the sign, a copy of the HOA covenants I got at closing. I put it all in a binder with tabs and drove to Southlake. The roads were a mess. Slush everywhere, and half the traffic lights were blinking red because the power grid was still recovering. I got to the management company office at 3:55. The receptionist took the binder and said someone would review it and get back to me. That weekend, nothing happened. No removal crew, no follow-up. I thought maybe the dispute worked. Then Monday morning I got a certified letter. It was from Melissa Carter personally, on Canyon Ridge HOA letterhead. It said my dispute was denied because the photographic evidence I submitted did not show the date and time, and therefore it was inadmissible. It also said I now had a lien notice filed against my property for failure to pay the combined fine of $650 plus a $50 administrative fee. I called Aaron. He told me the lien notice was premature and probably unenforceable, but I needed to respond fast or it would snowball. He said to send a certified response to the management company and copy the board president, stating that the lien was filed without due process and that I was requesting a formal hearing under the association bylaws. He also told me to include metadata from my phone photos proving the date and time. I did exactly that. I exported the photo metadata, printed it, and mailed the packet certified return receipt the same day. 2 days later, Melissa showed up again. This time she had 2 people with her. One was the guy with the camera. The other was a woman I did not recognize. Melissa told me they were conducting a property inspection under the Emergency Powers Clause. I asked what emergency. She said the snow pile I had created was now causing a drainage issue that affected the entire block. I pointed out that the snow had melted. She said the damage was already done, and they needed to document it for insurance purposes. I told them I was not consenting to entry, and if they needed to inspect, they could do it from the street. Melissa stepped onto my lawn anyway. I pulled out my phone and started recording. She saw the phone and stopped. The guy with the camera told her they should leave. She ignored him and walked to the spot where the snow pile had been. She took her own photos with her phone, then walked back to the sidewalk and told me I would be receiving another notice for obstruction of association duties. That night I got a group text from my neighbor 2 doors down. It was a screenshot of a message in the Canyon Ridge neighborhood group chat. Melissa had posted that effective immediately, all residents were required to clear snow within 6 hours of the last snowfall, and any vehicles parked on the street during a snow emergency would be cited and subject to towing. The post said the policy was being enforced retroactively starting from the last storm. I checked the covenants. There was no 6-hour rule. There was a general clause about maintaining your property, but it was vague and did not include a timeline. I took a screenshot of the group chat post and added it to my folder. Then, I wrote an email to the board president, copying the management company, asking for clarification on the new policy and pointing out that it was not in the covenants. I got an auto reply saying the president was out of town until the following week. The next morning, I found a bright orange sticker on my car windshield. It said parking violation with a date and a case number. My car was in my own driveway. I peeled the sticker off and saw that it left residue. I took photos and added them to the folder. Aaron called me that afternoon. He said he had heard from someone at the management company. Apparently, Melissa had submitted a formal complaint against me for harassment and intimidation, citing the fact that I recorded her during the property inspection. The complaint included a request for a restraining order barring me from attending HOA meetings or contacting board members directly. Erin told me that was absurd and probably unenforceable, but it showed how far she was willing to go. I started looking into the formal hearing process. The bylaws said any member could request a hearing with 14 days' notice, and the board had to provide a neutral venue and allow the member to present evidence. I drafted a hearing request and sent it certified mail to the management company and every board member I could find an address for. I included a copy of my complete evidence file and a list of witnesses I wanted to call, including the delivery driver who had been stuck at the curb during the first confrontation and had seen the whole thing. 3 days later, I got a response. The board scheduled a hearing for 2 weeks out at the clubhouse. The notice said I had 15 minutes to present my case, and Melissa would have 15 minutes to respond. I could bring one witness, no recording devices allowed. I called Aaron and asked if he could come as my witness. He said yes, and he also suggested I bring a printed timeline with photos and metadata, organized by date, so I could walk the board through the whole sequence without needing a projector or a laptop. He helped me put it together. We printed everything on heavy cardstock and put it in a 3-ring binder with tabs for each incident. It looked professional, and it had every piece of evidence I had collected so far. The day before the hearing, I got another certified letter. This one was from an attorney. It said the Canyon Ridge HOA had retained legal counsel to address my ongoing harassment of board members and my refusal to comply with association policies. It listed 8 alleged violations, including the original snow pile, the parking sticker, failure to attend a mandatory reinspection, and obstruction of duties. The letter demanded payment of $1,500 in fines within 10 days, or the association would file a lawsuit in county court. I read the letter 3 times. Then I called Aaron. He told me to bring the letter to the hearing and let the board see it. He said it was overkill, and it would make Melissa look vindictive. He also told me something I had not considered. If the HOA was using an attorney, that attorney had a professional obligation to review the facts. If the attorney saw evidence of misconduct or a weak case, the attorney might refuse to continue. That gave me an idea. If you are enjoying this, hit the like button and subscribe, because this story is just getting started. I spent that evening going through every document again. I found something I had missed before. The certified letter Melissa sent me denying my dispute had a date stamp that was 2 days before the management company said they received my binder. That meant she denied my dispute before anyone at the management company could have reviewed it. I highlighted that discrepancy and added a note to my timeline. The hearing was on a Thursday night. I got to the clubhouse early. Aaron met me in the parking lot and we went over the plan one more time. He would sit next to me and take notes. I would present the timeline and walk through the evidence step by step, focusing on the inconsistencies in Melissa's notices and the lack of due process. If Melissa or the board tried to interrupt, Aaron would object and cite the bylaws. The board president opened the meeting and read a prepared statement. It said the board took all disputes seriously and that tonight's hearing was an opportunity for both sides to present their case. Then he asked me to begin. I opened the binder and started with the first incident. I showed the photo of the snow pile, the plat map proving it was on my property, and the first violation slip Melissa gave me. I pointed out that the slip referenced a policy that did not exist in the covenants. Melissa interrupted. She said the policy was adopted under emergency powers after the storm. I asked her to provide a copy of the emergency powers resolution. She said it was not required to be in writing. The board president looked uncomfortable. He asked Melissa if there was a written record. She said the board had discussed it informally and agreed to enforce the snow removal rule verbally. I moved to the second incident. I showed the timeline and the second slip, pointing out that the deadline changed from 7 days to 24 hours with no explanation. I also showed the metadata from my phone proving the date and time of the photos. Then I showed the certified letter denying my dispute, and I highlighted the date stamp showing it was sent before the management company reviewed my evidence. Aaron leaned over and whispered that I should bring up the lien notice next. I did. I explained that the lien was filed without a hearing, without an opportunity to dispute the fine, and without following the process in the bylaws. I showed the board the letter from the attorney and asked if they had authorized $1,500 in fines. The board president said he was not aware of that letter. Melissa stood up. She said I was wasting everyone's time with technicalities, and the bottom line was that I had violated the rules and refused to comply. She said the association had the right to enforce its policies, and if I did not like it, I could move. I do not care what the weather did, I care what the rule says. She said it again, exactly the same way. The board president asked Melissa to sit down. He said the board would review the evidence and issue a written decision within 7 days. Melissa said that was not acceptable. She said I was a threat to property values and should be held accountable immediately. The president repeated that the decision would come in 7 days. Aaron and I left. In the parking lot, he told me I had done well, but he was not sure the board would rule in my favor. He said Melissa had too much influence, and the president seemed afraid of her. I asked him what the next step was if they ruled against me. He said I could file a complaint with the Texas Attorney General or take it to small claims court, but both options would take months. I drove home and pulled into my driveway. There was another orange sticker on my mailbox. This one said notice of pending fine for failure to maintain property during winter weather emergency. I left it there and went inside. I was exhausted, and I had no idea how much longer this was going to drag on. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. It was the delivery driver who had been stuck at the curb during the first confrontation. He said someone had given him my number and told him I was dealing with the HOA. He asked if I still needed a witness. I said yes, and I asked if he remembered what happened that day. He said he remembered everything, including Melissa screaming at me and telling me she was billing me for cleanup. He also said he had dash cam footage. I asked him if he could send me the footage. He said he would email it that night. The email came through at 10 p.m. The video was 6 minutes long and it showed the entire confrontation from his truck. The audio was clear. Melissa was yelling, I was calm, and she explicitly said she was billing me for cleanup even though the snow was on my property. I saved 3 copies of the video and sent one to Aaron. Aaron called me the next morning. He said the video was gold. He also said I should hold on to it and not mention it to the board yet. He wanted to see if Melissa would contradict herself at a future meeting or in writing. If she did, the video would destroy her credibility. The board's written decision arrived 4 days later. It said the board had reviewed the evidence and determined that I had violated association snow removal policy, that the fines were excessive and would be reduced to $200. The lien was lifted, but I was required to pay the reduced fine within 14 days. The decision also said I was prohibited from recording board members or staff during any future inspections or meetings. I read the decision twice. It was a compromise, and it was designed to make me go away. I called Aaron and asked if I should pay the fine. He said no. He said the decision admitted the fines were excessive, which meant the board knew Melissa had overstepped. If I paid, I would be accepting liability. Instead, he said I should file a formal appeal and force another hearing. I drafted the appeal that night. I cited the original covenants, the lack of a written snow removal policy, the due process violations, and the dash cam footage proving Melissa had lied about the location of the snow pile. I sent the appeal certified mail to the management company and every board member. 3 days later, I got a text from my neighbor. Someone had posted in the neighborhood group chat that my guests would be cited or towed during the next snow emergency, effective immediately. The post was from Melissa. I took a screenshot and added it to my folder. Aaron called me the next afternoon. He said he had heard from a friend who worked at the management company. Apparently, the board president had contacted the company's attorney and asked for a legal opinion on the case. The attorney reviewed the file and told the president the HOA was on shaky ground. The attorney said if I took this to court, the HOA would probably lose, and the association would be on the hook for my legal fees plus damages. The attorney also said the harassment complaint Melissa filed was unsupported and could expose the board to a countersuit. That was the moment I realized I had leverage. The HOA was scared. Melissa was out of control, and the board knew it. I called Aaron and told him I wanted to push harder. He asked what I had in mind. I said I wanted to file a demand letter through an attorney, not just as a member but as someone who had been defamed and harassed by an HOA official acting beyond her authority. Aaron said he could draft the letter, but it would carry more weight if it came from a licensed attorney. He gave me the name of a real estate attorney in Fort Worth who handled HOA disputes. I called her the next day. Her name was Linda Ortiz, and she was exactly what I needed. She listened to the whole story, reviewed the evidence folder, and watched the dashcam video. Then she told me she would send a demand letter on my behalf, but she wanted to include something extra. She said the HOA's attorney had a professional obligation to avoid frivolous litigation. If the attorney saw hard evidence that the association's case was bad, the attorney might refuse to continue. If that happened, the board would be stuck without legal representation, and they would be forced to settle. Linda said she would send the demand letter directly to the HOA's attorney, along with a copy of the dashcam video, the timeline, and a summary of the due process violations. She said she would also include a notice that I was prepared to file a counterclaim for defamation, harassment, and abuse of process. Linda sent the demand letter the following Monday. It was 8 pages long, and it included 30 pages of attachments. The letter demanded that the HOA immediately rescind all fines, remove the lien notice from county records, issue a written apology, and reimburse me for my time and expenses. It also demanded that Melissa Carter be removed from any enforcement or compliance role and placed on a no-contact directive. The letter said if the HOA did not respond within 10 days, I would file a lawsuit in county court. 2 days later, Linda called me. She said the HOA's attorney had responded. The attorney said he was withdrawing from the case. He said he had reviewed the evidence and determined that the association's position was not supportable, and he could not ethically continue representing them. He also said the board should consider settling immediately. That was the trump card. I gave her a small thank you, because she just handed me leverage. An HOA attorney email refusing to continue after seeing the misconduct was exactly what I needed. Linda forwarded me the attorney's withdrawal email, and I printed a copy for my file. The board president called me the next evening. He sounded tired. He said the board was meeting in 2 days and wanted to resolve the issue without further escalation. He asked if I would be willing to meet with them informally to discuss a settlement. I told him I would only meet if Linda was present and if the meeting was recorded. He agreed. The meeting was at the clubhouse again. This time, the entire board was there, plus the management company's regional director. Melissa was not there. The president opened by saying the board acknowledged that there had been procedural errors in the enforcement process, and they wanted to make things right. He offered to rescind all fines, remove the lien, and issue a written apology. Linda asked about Melissa. The president said Melissa had been asked to step down from the design review board pending an internal review. He said the board was also implementing a new policy requiring all enforcement actions to go through the management company first, with documented approval from the board president. I asked about my costs. The president said the association would reimburse me for the certified mailings and the attorney consultation fees. Linda said that was not enough. She said I had spent dozens of hours documenting the harassment, and the association should pay my filing fees and compensate me for the stress. The president looked at the regional director. The regional director sighed and said the HOA would pay my filing fees and issue a formal letter clearing my record. Linda asked about the no-contact directive. The president said the board would issue a written directive barring Melissa from contacting me directly or initiating any enforcement action against my property. He said any future inspections would be handled by the management company with advance written notice. I asked one more question. I asked if the board was going to address the emergency powers issue and the informal policy enforcement. The president said the board was scheduling a special meeting to review all policies and codify them in writing, with input from members. He said the new policies would be distributed to all residents and posted on the HOA website. Linda looked at me. I nodded. She said we had a deal, but she wanted everything in writing within 7 days. The president agreed. We shook hands and left. The settlement letter arrived 6 days later. It included everything we discussed. The fines were rescinded. The lien was removed. The board apologized for the procedural errors. Melissa Carter was placed on a no-contact directive and removed from the design review board. The association paid my filing fees to end the fight. The letter also said the board was adopting a clear snow policy with a neutral appeal process and proof standards. Aaron called me the day after I got the letter. He said he heard from a board member who was at the meeting. Apparently, a board member had quietly recorded Melissa bragging about making an example out of me at a different HOA event weeks earlier. The recording was played for the board in a closed session, and it was the final straw. Melissa was not just removed from the design review board. She was banned from serving in any official capacity for 3 years. The following week, I ran into my neighbor at the mailbox. He asked what happened with the HOA. I told him the short version. He laughed and said the neighborhood group chat had been quiet ever since Melissa stepped down. He also said someone had filed a formal complaint with the county about the HOA misrepresenting a local snow removal ordinance. The county sent a letter to the board clarifying that there was no 6-hour rule and that the HOA could not enforce a policy that conflicted with county code. A month later, I got a notice that the board was holding a town hall to present the new snow policy. I went. The policy was clear. Residents had to clear walkways within 48 hours of a storm, but there was no penalty for piling snow on your own property. Any enforcement action required written notice with a 5-day response window, and all disputes went to a neutral hearing officer, not the board. I also heard that the HOA faced an insurance risk warning that made the board panic. Apparently, the insurance carrier found out about the harassment complaints and the attorney withdrawal, and they sent a letter saying the association's liability coverage could be revoked if the board did not implement proper governance training and oversight. The board scheduled mandatory training for all officers and committee chairs. 2 months after that, there was another storm. This one was smaller, just 3 inches of snow overnight. I shoveled my driveway in the morning and pushed the snow to the side, exactly where I had pushed it the first time. No one said a word. No orange stickers. No violation slips. No Melissa. I saw her once after that, at the grocery store. She was in the checkout line ahead of me. She saw me, turned away, and did not make eye contact. I did not say anything. I just waited for her to leave. The delivery driver who gave me the dashcam footage sent me a text a few weeks later. He said he had been making deliveries in the neighborhood and noticed that Melissa's car had a for sale sign in the window. I looked her up on the county property records. She listed her house 2 weeks later. It sold in a month. I still live in Canyon Ridge. The new board is better. The management company is more responsive. The policies are in writing. I keep the evidence folder in a drawer just in case. But I have not needed it. The HOA leaves me alone, and I follow the rules. It is quiet now. Aaron and I still meet for coffee once a month. He always asks if I have any new HOA stories. I tell him I am done with drama. But I also keep my phone charged, my doorbell camera recording, and my receipts organized. Because in an HOA, you never know when someone is going to knock on your door with a clipboard and a thermal printer. The snow melted. The fines disappeared. The lien was gone. Melissa Carter was out. And I won. Thanks for watching. And I will catch you in the next one.